I will do this once and only once, so as not to offend, but merely to entertain through my pure stupidity. Wagwan Jamaica. I just think of Dave Chappelle.
The cats don't lie.
One love, one heart, one destiny.
And today we have Bob Marley, One Love. I will preface this by saying I'm definitely the least qualified person to be speaking on this. I've never been huge into Bob Marley or reggae. I've always respected it, and admittedly, watching this film I was jamming out, and now I do have more of a desire to go to his, like with Elvis in recent movies, I do have a desire to go back through the discography and discover and listen to all the greats. I don't have the biggest personal connection to Marley or his music, but I want to review the film, and I don't know how accurate it is to his life or the messaging and all that. I like the messaging, and we're gonna talk about it. All right, came out recently this year, and I wanted to go see it and review it, and yeah, here we are now. Directed by a Ronaldo Marcus Green, who I'm actually familiar with his body of work, kind of. I didn't realize this until I was looking up research for this, but this is the same man that brought us a film that I did review and very much like, and this guy seems to have a habit of dramatized biopics about certain people, but he directed King Richard, that one with Will Smith, Tennis, and all that. It was, I like that movie a lot, thought it was really well done. Star power, there's a lot to get into here in terms of like a who's who. Our main star, Kingsley Ben-Adir over here, who I didn't recognize, mainly because of all the, the garb and the hair and all that. So first of all, he was in Secret Invasion, a relatively recent Marvel miniseries. More importantly though, he was one of the Kens in Barbie, so that's pretty cool. He was a Ken in Barbie. He also had a role as Colonel Ben Younger in Peaky Blinders as well, so if we're talking about great shows this guy's been involved in, the decent roles. Bob Marley's, love interest, wife and all that. I like me some Lashana Lynch. Lashana Lynch is in this. She also does a great job. Both of them, accents are great and down. The characters are embodied, as far as I can tell, but she's in this. Another fun little shout out, she also is in another film that I covered, not only the Marvels, but also No Time to Die back in the day. She was in that, and she was a really cool secret agent, the new 007 more or less. And I swear to God, this keeps happening way too many times. This happened when I went to go revisit Little Women. This happened again now. If I confuse James Norton, this man, James Norton, if I confuse this man one more time with Zach Gilford, I'm gonna lose it. I keep seeing this guy's face and I'm like, oh my God, it's Riley from Midnight Mass, and I get excited because Flaniverse, right? No, these two look so similar to me, and yet they are two different people, and I keep seeing James Norton multiple times in just this year, and I keep thinking he's Zach Gilford, and he's not, and it's pissing me off, but it's my own fault. Anyway, Bob Marley, One Love. What are we thinking? The audiences love it. The critics mostly like it, but are kind of divided on it. My initial impression coming out of the movie, I really enjoyed it. I think as a film, it accomplishes exactly what it sets out to do, I think. It takes an interesting direction that I wasn't quite predicting in terms of how, in terms of what period of Bob Marley's life they were going to cover, but ultimately it does it well, executes it well, even though I'm not too knowledgeable in it myself, and even though personally I didn't love the movie, but I enjoyed the journey. It helps that at the beginning of the film, I think it was literally Bob Marley's son, a lot of the Marley family, because he had kids. A lot of the Marley family, if you watch the credits, were involved as producers or executive producers. So from my limited knowledge of this subject, as far as I can tell, the estate's been well taken care of, and the family had say and involvement in how this film was made, to the point where I believe one of his oldest sons, or maybe his oldest son, there was an intro by one of the Marley kids at the beginning of the film that was like, hey, this was made out of love, we love how it turned out, and homage and respect to my father, here is One Love, and basically introed the film. But as far as I can tell, it's a well-made, respectful, heartfelt tribute to Bob Marley and just kind of the cause of just peace and unity through music and Rastafarianism, which, although I don't subscribe to the ideology, or honestly I don't subscribe to much theology myself, but something like this is something that is just respectable, and I could get behind it just in terms of peace, love, togetherness, no woman, no cry, no fighting, put your guns and everything down, let's just live together, be together, we are united, it is one. It's how they say it, I and I, it is not you, it's not me, it's I, or not even we, it's I think is how he was saying it. Heartfelt tribute. I'm a fan of the core messaging of the film. Performances are great. I don't think anybody lacked in any of their departments. The acting is great, performances are great. I've seen very little in the way of documentaries or a lot of behind the scenes footage. I've seen very little of actual Bob Marley performances on stage. I haven't really heard him speak in interviews, but from what little I have heard, it seems the casting was a good call, and it seems that he paid homage and serviced this guy well, as for lack of a better term, the character of Marley, it seems, was respectfully done. So bravo there. All the performances, everything was believable, nobody phoning it in, especially our leads. I liked them a lot. Obviously the music is a pro of this film. Like I said, although I don't actively listen to Rasta music myself, I low-key kind of want to put some vibes on in the car or something like that. I could see myself listening to some of these beats. And I've heard some of these songs in the past, and I always enjoy them. In this whole film, I noticed that I was like bopping my head and just kind of bopping my feet as the songs were going. I was jamming out with them as they were playing through some of the classics and having little jam sessions and whatnot. It was enjoyable, it was musical, it was fun. I liked it, I dug it. It was great, a great vibe. I thought the film for some reason was going to kind of like cover more of his upbringing and his rise to stardom, and instead it kind of puts us at a point where he already is kind of a star who's about to like really blow up. And I thought it was like about one specific concert, but it wasn't. It's a little bit messy in terms of like the period of time it takes place in, but I did like the use of to cover his childhood and his upbringing. There are flashbacks implemented throughout the film that I think are done well, and they help the pacing, they make it tasteful, and they give added context to his character and the narrative as well. So I thought that was handled very well. The only, I hesitate to even say cons, but if I had to like go through what makes this film not perfect in my mind, for one, it didn't quite capture my heart personally. And again, this is based off of, I gotta leave this out there, this is my review, my opinion, and my very much personal bias. It's not something that I was able to fully connect to, although I agree with the messaging. All the positive qualities about the film that work, I like them, but at the same time, I just didn't connect to it to a point where I was like, oh, I love this, top film of the year. It didn't quite get there for me, even though I really enjoyed it. Perhaps if I did have a bigger connection to Marley growing up, I mean, I know the same thing happened with me with that Stop Making Sense 4K remaster A24 put out. A few of my friends love Talking Heads. I'm MovieMan. Due to my own fault as I was growing up, I leaned more towards cinema than I did music, so I don't have as big of a connection. I think one of my friends, their favorite movie last year was either, well, might have been Saltburn, but they loved Stop Making Sense, and that was just a concert. And I appreciate that film. It didn't feel right to review it. I would consider it a 5 out of 5, I suppose, because it accomplishes its goal and is a really good little concert that's filmed. But it's hard for me to say in this case that, like, I'm not gonna stand here and lie to you or anything like that. I don't have the prior context, knowledge, and connection to be able to, I think, truly fully appreciate this. So there are some people that I think do and are and have, and good for you, I'm happy, and I like this film a lot for what it does. But just personally, I don't have that connection there, so I'm at a bit of a disadvantage, honestly. Part of me was kind of expecting the sort of rise to success story. Progression of this film's narrative lacked a little bit of focus. I think that overall, we went from A to B, little periods within this particular period of Bob Marley's life. We get the flashbacks, which are good for more character and context, but for me, as somebody who knows nothing about Marley, I don't know, maybe I was expecting one type of thing, and I think even in the trailer, they were like, oh, there's one big concert coming up, but that concert kind of comes and goes, the movie still keeps going, so I just think that the film lacked, like, concentration and supreme focus, aside from the overall overlapping core ideology of like peace and love, or one love as it were. The pacing's fine, but the narrative kind of shifts around a lot and doesn't really, I don't know, it doesn't give me something as solid and as constant and as focused as I would like it to. I almost didn't feel right really reviewing this film. I mean, it's definitely not a concert film or anything, but it's a musical film with an uplifting message that has great performances. I mean, cinematography is great, shots, lighting, the music's there, obviously, the acting, like I said. This film, I think, accomplishes mostly what it set out to do, but I think that it needs more in the way of focus and concentration, and then the only other detraction for me was that I just couldn't personally connect to this film as much as I would have liked to. I'd probably give it a solid 4 out of 5. I give it a solid 4 out of 5. It's definitely one of the more enjoyable experiences cinematically that I've had this year so far. I really liked the film. I think 4 out of 5 is, I mean, it's up there. That's getting close to perfection, I think, in my mind. But again, due to personal reasons, I just didn't love it. It's worth it in theaters. It's a good time in theaters. Watch it there. Stream it at home if you want. It's 100% worth a watch. That's all I got to say about Bob Marley, One Love. Thank you guys and gals so much for watching, and stay tuned for the next episode of whatever movie I review. And goodbye, ya bomba clots. That's all I promise.